Aside from the Thargoid invasion, 3309 has seen a federal presidential election, concerns over the lack of a successor to the Emperor, calls for an end to the Sirius Alliance defense pact, a scare over madness spread by radio waves, and mounting evidence that salvation may not be as dead as we had assumed.
Federal President Hudson, like Prime Minister Mahon in 3307, has remained in office well past the end of his term. He was due to give up office in June, but the election wasn't even held till October, 3 months later. And even though Hudson wasn't entitled to run for re-election, as he's already served 8 years, he remains in office, with a vague promise that President-elect Winters will be permitted to take up office early in 3310. The election campaign lasted nearly 2 years, with Hudson attempting to suspend the laws that prevented him from running again. It was only when that legal action had failed, with the courts citing the risk of Hudson becoming a lifelong dictator, that his deputy Jerome Archer was selected as the Republican Party candidate alongside running mate Congressman Nico Shirakawa. The Liberal Party ticket consisted of Shadow President Felicia Winters and Congressman Isolde Rochester. The only third-party candidate to make it through the early rounds of voting was trillionaire businessman and alleged pirate Zachary Rackham. In fact, he actually is a pirate, exposed by journalist Brianna Blanco in the Federal Times, something that led to his last-minute withdrawal from the contest. We will never know if his populist, just like me, small government, low-tax, libertarian approach, with the promise of untold wealth for all, would have secured him the top job. It doesn't seem far-fetched to think he might have won. In the event, though, Felicia Winters managed a narrow 4% margin over Archer to win the race. Archer, as architect of the government snooping agency, the Proactive Detection Bureau, was hugely unpopular among many in the electorate, so he did well to come such a close second. Now, though, the question is, just how long must Winters wait to become the new president? She already has an official portrait, so the changeover should be straightforward, unless some other change in the political landscape is planned at the same time.
In July it was reported that the Imperial Mother, Lady Florence Lavigny, mother of Emperor Arissa Lavigny Duval, was critically ill. She remains unwell, although not in immediate danger. But her illness has raised the delicate question of the imperial succession. The Emperor has no children, and at nearly 67 years old she can legitimately be described as middle-aged. The imperial press has been speculating about what will happen if, for the first time in the history of the Empire of Achenar, the Emperor has no offspring. There are several imperial relations who might like a shot at the throne. Hadrian Duval arguably has a strong case to succeed the current emperor, and he already has a 2-year-old child. Princess Aisling, the other frontrunner, does not currently have any children, but she has at least been in several relationships. Arissa shows no interest in romantic dalliances. Her hottest date was the year she spent cryogenically frozen at the hands of her kidnappers, the Lords of Restoration, in Summerland. Unless she gets a move on and brings forth some kind of progeny, the Emperor is likely to receive ever-increasing calls for a succession plan, and more crazy ideas from Archduke Otto for gold statues in her likeness. If only her mother hadn't got inconveniently ill, she might have got away with it for a few more years.
The Sirius Corporation continues to provide theoretical protection for the Alliance from Thargoids, and the Alliance continues to pay in very real credits for the service. However, more councillors from the Alliance Assembly are expressing their concern that allowing Sirius privileged access to the Alliance military and to some parts of government is a really bad idea. Given that Sirius Corporation has failed to do anything useful other than help on a couple of resupply missions and assist in refitting Alliance megaships with anti-Xeno weapons, the Prime Minister's going to find it hard to justify extending the arrangement, despite relative apathy from Alliance commanders. Some believe that Mahan's decision to release from protective quarantine Alliance citizens who have been rescued from the Thargoids is an attempt to divert attention from the terrible job Sirius has done. Possibly worryingly, Azimuth Biochemicals has offered to take over from Sirius as the protector of the Alliance, although they have thankfully not offered to build another Proteus wave weapon. Some have speculated that Azimuth doesn't have the expertise to build another such weapon following the apparent death of its founder, Dr. Caleb Wycherley, otherwise known as Salvation.
There was a major security alert on the 26th of October after a broadcast of the occasional magazine show Frameshift Live. Garrett Orbital in the Shamash system, from where the show was broadcast, was taken over by an inexplicable madness. Members of the crew were reported to be suffering from a mass psychological disturbance that made them violent. Security crews took more than a week to subdue those affected. The strange mania had much in common with the fate of the generation ship Thetis, the wreck of which is still in the neighbouring Nefertem system. Those on board that ancient ship picked up a radio transmission which, once heard, turned everyone on board into mass murderers. Everyone on board is believed to have died, and it had been believed that the strange mania had died with the Thetis. The recent incident started when Shamash future Navy pilots overheard a mysterious audio broadcast. Within hours, they'd become infected and turned to massacring anyone passing through the system. Shamash Future had to call for outside help to destroy the vessels of all affected pilots. Order was eventually restored on the 1st of November, and the quarantine on Garrett Orbital was lifted. Frameshift Live was taken off-air after the event and has not returned to our screens. Both hosts were rescued by a mysterious character in a skull costume, but both were severely shaken and took some time off to recover. One of the hosts, the so-called Pink Lady, has since chosen to leave the show, in pursuit of her final fantasy.
Speculation continues over whether Salvation, the man who fired the Proteus wave and kick-started the Thargoid invasion, has somehow managed to preserve his consciousness after death. Seojin A, the former test subject D2 who suffered cruel experimentation at the hands of Salvation, firmly believes he has preserved his consciousness using Guardian technology, possibly merging into the Guardian artificial intelligence constructs. She set off at the beginning of the year to find evidence that Salvation lives on in some form, and she seems to have found evidence that has convinced Simguru Pranavantal of the Utopian Commune, an organisation that has put considerable effort into preserving human knowledge and experiences in a massive archive, that there may be some validity in her theories. As yet, the Simguru has declined to give details about what he believes happened to Salvation, as he wishes to respect Seojin A's privacy. But it is clear that he is taking seriously the idea that the so-called Nemesis failsafe has preserved Salvation's consciousness in some form. If Salvation, who is fixated upon the destruction of the Thargoids at any cost, comes back at the head of a Guardian navy, flying Guardian ships, piloted by Guardian AI, and if he turns the bubble into a Thargoid versus Guardian battleground, he may finally achieve the final extinction of the human race.